stop, I'm not gonna hunt you.
Oh, really?
Okay, I might.
Bitch.
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, welcome to Monster Hunter Wilds! I'm so happy to join you alongside the start of your journey through the newest entry in the Monster Hunter series, whether you are totally new to hunting or someone who has played multiple other Monster Hunter games in the past. Wilds has a lot of new things in both as far as gameplay and lots of quality of life systems as well, so today I want to stop and talk about a number of tips that I've got for you when playing through low rank, especially things I learned from my own mistakes playing through the game for the first time, in the hopes of improving your experience as a whole. First up, right out of the gate, if you are playing offline or in the online single player mode, which is what you will default to unless you're playing proper multiplayer in a lobby, there is a pause function in the options menu that you can access at any time, and quick access using the end key on your keyboard for PC players. This was in Rise as a function as well, but not in World or Iceborne, so it's definitely worth mentioning for those who weren't aware. Whether something comes up in real life, maybe you have kids, maybe you just have a pizza in the oven you need to go take out, maybe the phone rings or your doorbell goes off, or you get a hand cramp, or maybe you just really have to head to the porcelain throne and tend to the rear airlock on the spaceship that is your human body. And yes, that footage was put there purposely. No matter the reason, the ability to just put down the controller for a moment and walk away, knowing that you won't die or have any negative impact on a hunt at all, is a really good option to have and to be aware of when playing solo. And I didn't even know that this was in Wilds for the first multiple hours that I was playing, though granted the beginning of my journey was mostly multiplayer with Josh anyways. Second up, sort of general advice then that will contain multiple bits of mini tips. Make a point of staying aware of your resources at any given point. With the sort of seamless nature of hunting in Wilds, especially with the cutscenes in the story section of the game, it gets really easy to just start going hunt to hunt without ever thinking about restocking into your item box. It's a habit that I found I had to really sort of drill into myself so that I wouldn't just enter a hunt with like 3 potions and nothing else, and it's more than anything because of how easy it is to just keep going on another hunt without even thinking about it. And as a result, I wound up on multiple hunts with far less than a full item pouch for no real reason other than my own forgetfulness. Similarly, have a look at your food timer at the start of every quest. If you press L1 or the left bumper on controllers, left control on keyboard for PC players, you will zoom your minimap and your HUD in general, and this expands the food buff symbol in the top left of your screen to show you the remaining timer on it. Unlike previous Monster Hunter games, you don't eat once per quest. Instead, when you eat, you get a buff that lasts for a set amount of time. This means that you won't have to eat between every single quest, but it also means that there will be moments where you become complacent, don't realize that you are starting a hunt with like 30 seconds left on your food buff, and then suddenly you'll lose a pile of maximum health when it runs out while you're already in a zone fighting a monster. And this may not get you killed immediately in low rank, at least not at the start of the game, but it absolutely can and will get you killed in high rank in the end game if it happens at the wrong moment, so it's very good to get into the habit early on in low rank of checking these timers before you start a new hunt. Next up, loot your supply bag often. Monster Hunter has always had the concept of supply items, which are free items that you can get within a quest that usually disappear at the end of the quest if you don't use them. But Wilds has evolved this system and attached it to your seikret, your mount. Left on the D-pad for controller or N on your keyboard, this will check the pouch while riding your seikret, and this has permanent items in Wilds. Mostly this will just be like regular base potions, but there's some other useful stuff that'll pop up in tier 2, and especially if you get a collection of honey going from just regular gathering and you keep on top of emptying out your supply pouch on a regular basis, you will get a very regular supply of healing that requires very little input to actually manage. As well, on a similar note, talk to the support desk cat as soon as you can and claim everything that he has to offer. Depending on which version of the game that you got, you might receive a talisman to go equip, you might get some layered armor if you got some deluxe edition stuff, and if you've signed up for a Capcom ID and attached it to your game account, you can claim this free pack of items here, which gives you 30 mega potions right out of the gate, which is quite a lot for the start of the game, and it also gives you some other really good goodies as well. Also, make sure that you go by and visit Tom occasionally over here. He'll offer you random rations as he feels like it, but these are useful too for whenever your stamina starts to drop. After that, our next tip of the day, take advantage of the monster field guide. When you hunt a monster for the first time, you will fill out the data on these pages, and at first glance, it is just generally useful information, but you can also interact with it further to show bonus information, including everything from specific body part weakness to each element, and honestly, even more importantly, you can look at the sources and drop chance of every single part that a monster can give you in any way. Sure, yeah, that maybe sounds useful, but you won't appreciate how good this is until you realize that some parts in this game literally only come from part breaks, or only come from wound pops, or only come from rewards in a quest, not from carving a creature or from any breaks. And so the tip here is, if you know that you're trying to get a specific part from a monster, have a look at where it actually comes from before you kill a bunch of block G trying to get the monster fluid from them, not realizing that it only technically drops from them if it's a quest reward, not as something that you can carve off of them. Look, the goggles look cool, don't judge me. Following that then, this is what I call the Goldilocks solution to the game. To some hunters who are already good at other Monster Hunter games, who have played a lot of Monster Hunter before, Wilds will probably feel a bit easy. To some hunters who are newer with the games or play more casually, Wilds might have some challenging moments. To other hunters, Wilds difficulty will be just right. If you feel the game is going a bit too easy for you, you can just try to avoid upgrading your weapon a bit longer than you normally would, maybe take off an armor piece or two so you just take more damage from everything, and if you're having a tough time with a specific monster or a quest, even when you are completely offline, you can throw out an SOS flare and the AI support hunters will roll up and start hunting alongside you. And in Wilds, they are actually quite potent, like they will make your quests notably easier if you use them. Or of course, you can always just play online, play with friends, or SOS flare looking for real players. The Monster Hunter community is always full of people willing to help newer players and happy to hunt whatever monsters lay upon your path. So no matter how you feel about the game's difficulty, there will always be ways to adjust your experience and make it at least a little bit more up your alley, whatever that alley happens to be. Next up today, let's talk about flash pods. These items have sort of gone on and off in various Monster Hunter games, from being super overpowered to super underpowered, back and forth, and I'm happy to report that as of this moment, flash pods are super good in Monster Hunter Wilds. Most specifically against any monster that flies or otherwise leaves the ground during combat for any reason, because if you flash a monster that is in the air, it'll give you a free knockdown, which is massive. And while monsters do build up some resistances to this over time, you can use it to cancel some big dangerous attacks on some monsters, or even just to stop a monster from changing zones if you want to keep fighting it in the same place. Similar to that, traps are really good in Wilds too, like shock and pitfall traps, but especially shock traps. You can craft these quite easily once you have the equivalent feature to the farm in Wilds, so these are a very strong tool that will be readily available to you for a lot of the game. On a similar note to that, talk to the NPCs that have quest symbols beside their names. You get very little in this game of NPCs having exclamation marks over their head just for a single line of dialogue that doesn't actually result in anything. Instead, if an NPC has a marker on them, it means they have a quest for you, a proper quest that will give you some sort of reward. And there are a lot of side quests that you can get in this way, starting relatively early with the start of the fishing side quests, I believe are the first ones you get. These just teach you about fishing in Wilds, which is way more in-depth than I ever could have expected it to be, and you may be laughing right now at that, but just wait until you try it and find out that you actually enjoy fishing in Monster Hunter Wilds. But of course, these side quests also teach you about the various systems and unlocked functions within the game too, with some of them unlocking the trading and gathering NPCs, and I won't go into too much detail on this system because it's sort of just fun to find them for yourself, but the equivalent to the farm in Wilds is that each village has an NPC that you can ask to keep an eye out for one main item out of a list of options. Things like honey, herbs, mite seeds, mandragora, pretty much all the classic farmable items that you could farm in previous Monster Hunter games, and then as time goes by, as you complete quests or when you rest inside of your tent, they will start collecting those items that you asked for and deliver them. There's a lot more depth to the system than that, of course, but the point being, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of quality of life features behind side quests, so do not ignore them when the symbol comes up. Take up the quest and then do it. For the next tip, I want to reiterate something that I did already say in a recent video, but I think it's really important and still less talked about and known than it should be. So I want to be sure that all players are aware that there is a mechanic in Wilds similar to Wirefall in this game. In Rise and Sunbreak, you could use a wire bug while you were downed on the ground to extend the normal invulnerability frames that you get when your hunter is knocked on the floor, as well as repositioning yourself. This made it much harder for monsters to kill you once you got used to it, because it was a direct input that you had control over for essentially a get out of jail free card. In Wilds, there is a similar function that is quite powerful, not quite as ridiculous as Wirefall was in Rise and Sunbreak, but while your hunter is downed, you can call your seikret over to you to pick you up and mount them. If they are close enough, they will pick you up before you get up from the ground yourself, and if you time this right, this will actually give you bonus invulnerability frames that can help you dodge an attack that would otherwise hit you as you were standing up. And on top of that, it also makes it so the moment that you are hittable, you are already a couple of meters away from where you were before, riding at mount speed, and can easily heal from outside the attack radius of most monsters too. You can sharpen your weapon or whatever else it is that you need to do in that moment. Next up, the final thing that I want to say without any sort of spoilers, take your time the first time climb through the story. The story of the game is the best that Monster Hunter has ever delivered us, with some genuinely enjoyable characters. It ties the monsters together to the world in very real ways. It explains the way that the weather works in the game, as that's just part of the heart of the game too. And I know a lot of people have a certain mentality that they are only here for the hunts and the monsters, and they would skip the cutscenes if they had the choice. But I think especially if you are someone who has been in the community for a long time, if you played multiple previous Monster Hunter games, there is a lot of very cool moments in this game. And if you pay enough attention to the story, you will catch Easter eggs that can relate back to pretty much any previous Monster Hunter game you could think of. But this also applies to everything else in the game too, not just the story. You only get your first hunt of each monster one time. You only get your first exploration of each map one time. So don't rush. Don't instantly bum rush every new monster with your biggest, flashiest combos and stun lock it to death. Give it a bit of room to breathe. Let it show you some of its moveset, and maybe take the time to actually explore the maps while you're out there too, because you'll find that every map has some sort of environmental traps, if nothing else, if not multiple types of these, and you can take advantage of them in different zones to actually help you on your hunts. Things like deployable vine traps, nests of hornets that you can get to attack a large monster, spongy floors that monsters can fall through and get stuck in for basically bonus knockdowns. There's tons of environmental assistance to use within your hunts, and all you need to do to work it into your gameplay is explore the maps a little bit and learn where these things actually are. Finally today, this one is extremely low rank specific, but it pertains to the very end of low rank. I won't be talking about a monster with any specifics or anything like that, but if you don't even want to know what happens at the end of low rank, now is when you should exit the video. So thanks for watching, and I hope you've learned something useful. For the rest of you, the final mission of low rank is one that you can only do once. It is unique and it's awesome. It is very obvious when it's happening, so when things start feeling really climactic, a triple cart isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. That's all I will say. This is a warning that I wish I had, so I need to tell you, but I also refuse to accidentally give literally any spoilers away on this one, so that's all I want to say about that. That just about does it for today then, everyone. A bunch of tips for you guys as you progress through low rank and the start of Monster Hunter Wilds. Generally spoiler free, with some very light exceptions near the very end there. And I hope that these will help you and make your journey better in some way, shape, or form. If you have any tips of your own for other hunters, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.